Hello and welcome to the 7.3 release notes video review. So this release has a bunch of new site features as well as some reseller account management features. So it's a bit of a mix this release. Let's dive in. So we have email account management. So now with the new release of version 7, email accounts are now an extension. So the business and pro plans have one email account by default. If you want to extend on that, you do that via an extension. And so in your portal, if you go to the site settings for the site in question, under the extensions tab, you can install the email accounts. And when you install it, there'll be a pay button like the multi-sites down here, and you simply pay for the number of mailboxes you need. And then under the mailboxes tab, the number of mailboxes you purchase will be available. So you can add mailboxes up to that limit, and then you can buy additional mailboxes directly from this view as well. And you can increase the storage in a similar fashion by adding storage and then just choosing the add-on pack that you need for each account. So just a slight variation in how we manage the mailboxes now. And in terms of payment, when you add those mailboxes or storage, it will actually cancel the existing subscription and then start a new subscription with the added value in like a prorated scenario. So you'll pay for the amount combined with the site fee, and then going forward on the regular renewal date, the new value will be calculated. So we don't have separate recurring invoices for all of these different things that you might add on. So they essentially get rolled into one from what I can gather. Okay, next on the list we have the file manager. Now has a trash and version history management. So this is a really cool feature. If we're looking at a particular site, and we go to the file manager. So we now see down the bottom a trash. So anything you delete, not just files from the file manager like images or a JavaScript file or whatever, even if you delete a page or an item from the actual content management system, they will in turn go into the trash. So let's just say I have this sample CSS file here, and I accidentally delete that and go to a trash. And this may take a little while to show up in the trash. Sometimes you need to refresh or just wait a little moment, but that'll become listed in the trash. From there, you can just directly restore it if you know that that's the file you need, or you can preview it and it'll just open up a window. You can check what the contents is, and you can restore it from here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and restore that. It's now removed from the trash. If we go back to CSS, we can see our file is back again. So like I said, that happens with, say, pages as well. So if your client accidentally deletes a page or an item, jump into that trash as soon as you've found that out, and you should be able to recover that. Now this is separate to the website backup extension. However, if you have the website backup extension enabled, we do actually get some additional functionality, being the file version or a version history of the file. So looking at my sample CSS file here, if I use the three-dot menu, we can see now there's a history option, and that's because I have the backup extension running. So clicking on that brings up a list of all the saved versions of that file. And again, we can restore to one of those versions or preview it. And with the preview, it actually gives you a side-by-side comparison of the version that you are previewing with the very current version that's still, I guess, live on the site. So that's really handy, giving you that comparison file view, so you can check exactly what's changed and what's different. And you could restore the whole file, or given that you can now see what's changed, you could just be selective and copy out certain parts of that and then manually paste that into your file if you're only looking for a particular part that went missing. So yeah, really powerful stuff there. So definitely encourage people to look at the backup extension if this is something that's going to be very handy for you if you've got clients that like to delete things, which I'm sure we all do. So yeah, very powerful feature, that one. And also just a slight change in the file manager. Let me close this down. If we're just looking at a folder view like this, we can just drag and drop images directly into that main window anywhere in there. I think in version 6 we just had a section at the top here that you had to drag into. So now that's a little bit easier, a bit more intuitive to drag and drop files directly into the file manager. All right, next we have the hidden validator field. So for anti-bot protection, otherwise called a honeypot. So now we just have an additional like spam filter, I guess, for forms where you can add the honeypot. And this is basically a custom field. So you can actually give it whatever name you want. But from the type, right down the bottom, if you select hidden validator. Okay, and the reason, I guess, that it's a custom field and that we can give it our own name, even though these fields will be hidden, is just, I guess, based on the strategy that you want to take with these. So the idea of these hidden fields is that if a bot or some auto form completion tool actually adds a value to these hidden fields, then that's a good indication that, well, it's a bot filling out the form. So then it will be rejected or marked as spam. So some of these bots are trained to look at different fields and the names of these fields, so what they might be for. So if you give the field a really vague name that a bot might look at and think, oh, that's not a field that's going to be required, or not one that's normally filled out, then the bot may not fill it out. So if you give it a name like, phone number, the bot's going to think, oh, that's an important field, so we'll fill that one out. So it depends on the strategy that you're taking. And additionally, you can add multiple honeypot fields. So you might want to take a stronger approach and add a phone number, maybe a secondary email field, or fields like that that are going to, I guess, attract the attention of the bot and get them filled out. Now, I'm not quite sure why you would mark it as required. I haven't looked into that use case yet, but perhaps there's a use case for that. But you can go ahead and save that, and then, of course, just add that into the form layout, just like you would any other form field. Of course, it's going to be hidden by default. The input type's going to be hidden. Obviously, you want to leave it that way, but you can add that into the form code however you need to. And it just says in the notes here that some of the validation rules around that, but also that the value, if there's any value inputted in that, it doesn't get saved in the form. It doesn't get submitted with the form or saved into the CRM. Okay, next we have a new code editor. So this is awesome. The previous code editor for when you're working in the code view for pages or items, or in the file manager if you're editing text-based files, let's say that CSS file that we were using earlier. So this editor has now been upgraded to the Monaco code editor, which apparently is similar to the editor used in VS Code. So it's much more capable, much more professional code editor. Has a lot of cool features. So mainly what I've found, particularly with CSS and with JavaScript, the code completion or IntelliSense support. So it can kind of give you that text prediction as you type. So it makes coding a lot quicker. And obviously, if you're used to using VS Code or any other code editor, you would have been used to these sorts of features. So just getting a lot more of those more professional code editing features directly within the admin now. So much better. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll just give a very quick little demo here. So we might have select, and I might want to put in the color attribute. So as you start typing, you can see it brings up a bunch of suggested autocompletes. So you can just scroll down and select one of those, even select a color. So a very quick way of coding out things there. And what I've also found is you can see here that I've defined some CSS variables for some colors. So again, if you've done that anywhere before in the code, the IntelliSense has picked up on that as well. So if I want to use those variables and I start typing, it actually recognizes those in the document and I can select from those. So it just makes things a lot easier than having to hand type everything. The other cool thing with this is it does have a fair bit better support for Liquid. Let me see if I can get an example of that, maybe in a system page. So just before I do that, that's another thing. It has these little pop-ups for if you need to find out more information about the element that you're looking at, or HTML, or the code that you're writing. Often brings up these little information bubbles where you can go and see the documentation for that particular element. But with Liquid, when you're writing out your Liquid, if you see, for example, we have a for loop. If we haven't finished writing that, or we forget to put in our closing for loop, it actually detects that as an error and tells us exactly what's happening there. So it's good that that now actually supports Liquid a bit better. The previous editor really just didn't see Liquid as a valid code at all. All right, next on the list we have notification about the mandatory update to version 7. So again, in the portal, you've probably all seen this now. If you've got sites that are over limits for the version 6 requirements, you'll have that pink banner in the portal just notifying you of that. And if you click on that banner, it will tell you which sites and why they're going over, or which limits they're exceeding. So you can get much more information about those site limitations. Okay, next, reseller role upgrade. So just simply in your portal, if you go to your settings, it will tell you your reseller type, and you can upgrade directly from the reseller portal now. And the price it gives you is the reduced price with your previous reseller type taken off that price. Okay, next we have quite a powerful feature here. Probably not something you'd use every day, but when you need it, it's extremely powerful. So that is the URL rewrites. So I guess similar to URL redirects, which we've always had, where you want to redirect one page to another, URL rewrites allow you to change the URL structure into some other format. So particularly this comes in handy if you're migrating a site from a different platform and maybe they've got some horrible URL structure to blog articles or something like that, or maybe they have a really good structure that you want to maintain and you just can't quite replicate that in WebinOne. So you can actually use these URL rewrite rules and change the format of your WebinOne URLs into some other format. So that allows you to maintain those previous URLs for SEO reasons and whatnot. It's also handy if just your current URL structures in WebinOne are quite long and maybe you just want to shorten them and get them nice and easy for people to remember, or neat for people to write out. So you can do URL rewrites for that as well. This feature is now documented. It is in the documentation with a few examples and goes into the regex language, I guess, to write those URL rewrites. It is quite complicated, so you definitely want to look at using a tool to generate those, or AI will definitely be able to help you out with that. But yeah, definitely a very helpful feature, particularly in the realm of SEO and anywhere where you need to really tweak the URLs that are going to your pages. Okay, next we have the change partner email. So back again in your portal, if you for some reason need to change your partner email address in the portal, you can now do that directly in the portal settings. You will be asked to confirm that, so it'll send a confirmation email out and you just need to confirm that before it will actually change. Okay, next we have the filter reminder recipients by state. So if you have email reminders set up for things like event registrations, So under email notifications and reminders, typically, that reminder would be triggered for whatever situation you have that set up in. So if someone subscribes to an event, in this case, 5 days before the event, they would get their reminder email. Now we just have a member state filter. So there may be use cases where you want to set up different reminders or only have a reminder go out based on the state that someone's in. So maybe the event is localized or it's region based. So, or maybe you want to give people that are outside that region more time, a longer reminder, something like that. So you can actually add in the state as a filter. So this reminder would only go to the members that have that matching state. And you can add multiple ones. It's kind of like a tag field here. So in the case of being in Australia here, we might have the state of New South Wales, but depending on the different formats you have members entering in their details, if that's not locked down or you've allowed that to be a more or open field for people to type their state, then you may need to add a variety of state formats. Like in this case, you could have the acronym for New South Wales, or you might need to write the whole state as well. And that's why we can add multiple filter rules, I guess. Or you just simply may have a lot of states that you want to cover. Okay, and still keeping on along the lines of emails, so disable the sender reply to option in workflows. So when you're working with workflows and you receive, say, a workflow notification from a form submission, quite a while ago it was implemented that if you then reply to that email, that workflow email that you're receiving, it will automatically have the reply to header to go to the customer who filled out the form. So I guess there are some use cases where you may not want that to happen. Maybe you don't want to be able to reply to those. So you can disable that reply to. So it no longer uses the person who submitted the form as that reply to address. And it will just go back to the workflow email from field. So whatever system email you have you have for that workflow, whoever's sending it to you, that's then the one it will reply to. So maybe you want to use them more for internal communications and replying to internal staff. So you can disable that now. And lastly, we have the cancel subscription or site deactivation. So previously, again, you had to reach out to support to cancel a site. You can now do that from your portal. So in the live sites, so again, under the site settings, there's now this subscription tab. So you can go to that and you can just, firstly, it's handy just to see what the subscription is and see all the features and options that you've got under that subscription plan. But down the bottom, you can cancel that from here as well. And that will cancel the payment workflows. It will move the site back to trial mode. So it doesn't actually delete the site. You can delete from the trial mode, but it will move that back to trial sites and release the domain from the WebinOne system. So we'll do all that automated now rather than having to reach out to support. Okay, and that brings us to the end. So hopefully there's some features in there you find helpful for your upcoming projects. I know just using the new editor is so much better. So for that alone, this is a great update. Okay, enjoy. Thank you.